Hey, Manny, thanks for taking the time. So we haven't asked about Donaldson in a while. Can you sort of update us how he's maybe progressing? Could he still maybe play at some point this season? Just sort of fill us in on his progress.
Navon is, I think he's got an appointment later this week to kind of assess his progress and where he's at. I think the big thing he's trying to work now, there's sort of two things going on. Is number one, his overall fitness. Trying to get that right, and then getting the clearance on the actual injury itself. Those two go hand in hand a little bit. So I think we're expecting to hear a little bit more on that later this week. Right now he's able to take reps in no contact, walk through, jog through type settings. Obviously we're still hoping to have him with the way the season is playing in through December, have him be able to play some sort of role. But I couldn't say one thing for sure right now.
Coach, we've got David Lake from Inside the U. David?
Yeah, Coach, Derek King was just saying he feels like the Tuesday, Wednesday practices were the best back-to-back practices maybe of the year. Would you agree with that assessment? And if so, what has impressed you about how the team has approached practice this week?
I'm glad he said that. I would have to watch the film to know, because obviously I'm on the defensive field, so I'm not watching the offensive half of practice when they're working against Pittsburgh during that time. But that's obviously encouraging. I do think we've got great leadership. I think the guys are helping push through. We just did some discipline running that we're still paying for our penalties this past weekend, and we had to repeat a couple. And normally that's a situation where it's right at the end of practice, super hot outside, guys get discouraged, and it was kind of the opposite. It was guys were excited to be able to put their hand on the line and run again. So again, that doesn't guarantee anything we're going to play on Saturday, but I do think it's encouraging that that we've got a good bit of leadership on this team.
Coach, we have David Wilson from the Miami Herald. David?
Hey, Manny. Derek was just saying he felt like that start was, probably one of the worst of his college career. He was also kind of talking about the way, I don't remember exactly the word he used, but basically everyone being honest with each other, maybe like brutal honesty or tough love kind of stuff. Curious what you've seen from him in terms of like trying to, bounce back, and just that idea of guys being open and honest with each other. Have you seen that this year, and has it maybe been different than in past years?
Yeah, obviously, Derek has such a quiet confidence about him. He's never rattled, even when he wasn't playing well in the game. There's never any sense of panic on his face, but yeah, I think as internally, as a staff and as a football team, I think we were all able to put our hands up and say, hey, these are places where we all could have been a lot better, and be vulnerable to each other like that, and then to be able to own it, and then be able to move on, And so, like I said, you got to tell some harsh truths after a game like that. But once you own them, when you have your leaders that are willing to be accountable for that, it's encouraging. That starts with us as a coaching staff, with our message inside the building, and then it goes on to the players.
Coach, we've got time for a few more. We're going to go to Manny Navarro at The Athletic. Manny?
Hey, Coach, you mentioned on Monday that you guys are going to have a meeting about some injuries and maybe have some updates. Were there any guys who weren't able to go this week in practice, and any guys that might be questionable for Saturday?
The only guy that'd be questionable is Brevin. I think everybody else has been practicing and has been good to go. So we'll see as the week goes on about Brevin. But everybody else has been out there running around looking good.
And any lineup changes? I know obviously some more guys were getting playing time. Is there any in mind right now where you say, okay, we're going to make a switch here or make a switch there?
I think what you're asking is probably more. There may be the snap counts, but I don't know if there's anything dramatic, that type of deal. And sometimes you got to get into a game, and it's a little bit like, I know even covering the NBA, you got to sometimes you get in the game and see who the minutes go to, where the rotations lie at some spots. But no, we're still valuable. We got to watch a film from today and see who's doing best and give us the best chance to win.
Thanks.
Coach, we've got Chris Stock from Inside the U. Chris?
Yeah, kind of speaking about the Brevin thing, just with Will Mallory, kind of just his season, just your thoughts on how he's done. I know we've talked about him before, but just how he's doing, and if he is going to be that lead, if he happens to be that lead guy Saturday, how will he be able to handle that? Your confidence in him, basically.
Yeah, I think we know we've got two really outstanding tight ends. I think Will has really made some big improvements this year in terms of his physicality and his blocking and doing some of the things that the actual tight end position requires. But then, in this offense and his ability to spread out and just his body size across the middle of the field, for a quarterback, it gives the quarterback such confidence because there's such a humongous target to throw the ball to. And so, yeah, I mean, I think, we even had a matched up one-on-one on the outside lanes. The ball ended up getting picked, but really a little bit better ball placement. That could have been an explosive play. And same thing, you got a big old body to throw the ball to and, lead it out there and let him go, big boy and make a big play. So, and then the great part about Will is just a very hard worker, relentless guy, all for the program. And you want those guys to do well.
Coach, we got Barry Jackson from the Miami Herald. Barry?
Hi, Manny. A quick thing on COVID and a quick on Avery Huff. With Huff, what does he have to do to become a factor for defensive snaps? And on COVID, your coaching staff and the players have done such a good job keeping it under control on your team. Have you told the players, ordered them, or encouraged them not to go out to dinner, not to go to sports bars, et cetera, et cetera?
Starting with Avery just has to continue to learn the ins and outs of the defense. Avery's a guy, and he's not alone. There are certain guys that just we forget it often that we're playing football and it feels like a normal football season. This is anything but a normal football season, and not having spring practice and not having those reps, and probably I think we were short 4 to 5 practices what we would normally had in a training camp. Those are the reps that Avery Huff needed because this was going to be his big development year, and he's still developing. He's still doing that, and he's really doing a nice job for us on special teams. But just handling the assignments and understanding all the run fits, where you go based off of what you see and all that type of stuff, he's learning on that and gaining more confidence in that. But some of the body types and what we want with an Avery, Tyreek Austin Cave, obviously we talk about Sam, we've talked about Corey Flagg. We're super excited about what we've got developing in that linebacker room. But you gotta know where, what gaps to fill versus what running plays. So. Avery's still working on that and getting confidence in that. In terms of the COVID deal, we've been up against it, as I mentioned before, since June 15th. We have not given strict parameters. Do not go to a restaurant. Do not go to this style of place. What our big talking point has been is just understanding your close contact in your personal bubble when you're within 6 feet of somebody without a mask on, that anyone that you are within close contact with, you are basically bringing into our bubble, into our team. And that's not, listen, we don't ever think we've got it solved because every time the test comes up, we have fingers crossed. But obviously they've taken some responsibility. I've heard the players talk back about being in the dorms and their coach, I'm trying to keep my bubble small and I'm trying to keep people, away and this, that, and the other. But, look, they're not locking themselves in their rooms, and they haven't been since June 15. I think they're finding a way to manage, which I think is a great lesson for everybody. There's a way to manage and live as normal of a life as possible with this virus without being in a lockdown, but there are still some responsibilities that are required. But like I said, I don't ever want to talk like we've got it sorted out, because the second you do, bam, I mean, that's what we've seen. And now it's you're up. So we're just trying to stay under the radar, the COVID radar.
Coach, this is the last one. We have Susan Miller-Degnan from the Herald. Susan?
Hey, Manny. Kenny Pickett, their quarterback for Pitt, I believe he has an injured ankle. How has that affected, or does that affect preparation? I know his backup, Kenny is a veteran, but his backups are young.
Yeah, I mean, he was able to continue playing. And his toughness, really, since his first year, has never been in question. And if you hear, Pat Narduzzi speak on him, I think he's a guy that the entire football team up there respects, because, I mean, just his ability to go in there and play the game in overtime. And in theory, he led them to a tying touchdown in overtime, and then they missed the PAT. So, we would expect him to play. Certainly, he's burned us on some long runs in the past. I think their longest play from scrimmage a year ago might have been a scramble, either the longest or second longest they had against us. But his number one his still number one asset is his arm. He's got a cannon for an arm and can make some really throw some real darts down the field, and we would expect that regardless of whatever condition his ankle is in. If he finished the game last week, we expect to be able to play against us this week.
Great. Coach Diaz, thanks for spending a few minutes with us today. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you all. Have a good day.